Hello, everyone. I just wanted to check in with everyone because we're about halfway through the month of August. And I just wanted to kind of go over the prompts for anyone who maybe is struggling with what they're doing this month or maybe even just starting out. So, first off, let's talk about what the prompts are. The overarching prompt is mise en scène, which is essentially just a pretentious way of saying everything that you can see in the frame. And it's broken down into multiple different parts. So the parts are what are making up each individual prompt. So we have setting, decor, lighting, depth of space, and then we're adding in a bonus fifth one this month, which is personal style and aesthetics. The idea this month is that all of these prompts should be able to work together to create a cohesive narrative. Now, one of the questions that I was getting from people is, well, how am I supposed to do that? I'm not shooting them at the same time. I'm not shooting the same thing. What am I supposed to do to make them cohesive? Well, the idea of them being cohesive is not necessarily that it's one linear thought. It's more that they work together through some general thread. So that could be something as simple as color. It could be a texture that you have running through. It could be a theme. It could even be a subject. Maybe you're working with a model and you're using the same model in various different setups. So don't stress too much about it being one specific time frame linear story. Think of it more as just an overarching theme that brings them all together in some way. If you have further questions about that, pop them in the Discord. Let's chat about it. I just want to kind of give a quick overview of all of this. The other question that I received was, it's easy to maybe do decor, even lighting, and that sort of thing when you are physically manipulating every portion of the photo. So maybe you're doing a set up photo, maybe you're actually creating a scene and moving things around and having a model and all of that. But what if you're a street photographer or a landscape photographer? I talk more in depth about this in the first episode of our podcast, but just to kind of touch on it now, again, I don't want you to be too literal with this. So let's talk about lighting. Alex OMGBs, who was in our first episode of Focal Point podcast, asked about, well, I'm going to be in the city and I want to work on my lighting shot for the month, but I'm not going to bring lights. I'm not going to set up lights on the street and all of that. So how am I supposed to be manipulating light creatively? Well, the idea here is that you don't necessarily have to be picking up a light and moving it around and creating creative thoughts here. You can manipulate available light as well. So maybe you're walking through the city and there's some neon lights, and you're noticing that the neon lights are reflecting off of the sidewalk in an interesting way. You then, as the photographer, as the person making the choices of time and then even camera settings and all of that, you're going to wait for an opportunity where that reflected neon light maybe casts a color cast across somebody walking by, or maybe there's a bright sunlight and you see it reflecting off of a white wall, and then you can use that to reflect onto a subject. So you should be thinking about all of this and not setting it up, but using the opportunities that are there to make choices that are manipulating what is available for you. If you do want to actually physically use lights, artificial lights, reflectors, what have you, super encourage that as well. This is just a little side note for those who maybe are thinking, well, I'm not going to grab a reflector, I'm not going to use an off-camera flash, I'm not going to do any of that. So think about manipulating light in other ways, in ways that you are using what is already available to you. The other question maybe people run into is about personal style and aesthetics. This is probably a lifelong challenge of any artist, let alone just photographers. So don't stress too much about the idea of I need to have a personal style, I need to have an aesthetic that is my own, because aesthetics change. If you think about someone even like Van Gogh, who had blue periods, and Picasso, excuse me, had blue periods and so forth. There's always a transition in an artist's career, so it's never going to be the same throughout as long as you are continuing to learn and continuing to progress what you're doing. So for this, I really just want you to think about look at all the photos you take. Is there anything that you see that maybe you do consistently? Those who have followed my stuff, you probably easily see that there's usually a really bold foreground element that's usually out of focus. That's something that I kind of rely on. That's something that I enjoy doing. So I would say that's part of my personal style. Again, you might not have anything yet, and that's okay. I want you to just think about, what do you like? What do you like about your own photos? Is there something that is consistent across them? Maybe, maybe not. But think about what it is, how you approach a photo. Are you more of a opportunist? Are you more of a meticulous photographer? Things like that. That all plays into your personal style and aesthetics. One thing I really want to drive home is that personal style does not necessarily mean I use the same color casts and I use the same filters on every photo to make them look the same on my Instagram profile. What do we call it? Grid. That's not necessarily what personal style means. I guess it could, but I think it goes a little bit deeper than that, and they don't all of your photos don't have to be exactly the same for there to be personal style in there. So don't get caught up on that. But that's it. That's all I really wanted to kind of touch upon at the halfway mark of August. I'll try to do these little catch-ins like this a couple times a month. So if you do have any questions, please come into the Discord, leave comments, talk to the other participants. They probably have similar questions, or they've already approached it and found a solution for them. And then, of course, I'm always here to follow up on that as well. So thank you. I look forward to seeing what everyone comes up with, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the month, as well as the rest of the year. We have some pretty cool stuff happening in the background that I'm really excited to get out to you guys very soon. So thank you, and I will see you guys on the internet. All right.